The breaking news coming in this evening, legendary leg spinner, arguably one of the greatest bowlers of all time, Shane Warne, has passed away. He died of a suspected heart attack. 52-year-old Australian cricket legend. He was in Koh Samui in Thailand on a holiday. The posts that he's putting out on social media seem to suggest he wanted a shredded, leaner, meaner look, and that's what he was hoping, or at least promising. He's got Elizabeth Hurley, his former partner, liking that, and basically saying Operation Shred has started 10 days ago. And the goal is to get into shape by July. That was his last post on Instagram. A legend in his lifetime. There he is on screen with Brian Lara, Vivian Richards, arguably one of the greatest leg spin bowlers of all times. Modern contemporary hero. I want to go across to Nikhil Naz, who's joining us from the newsroom, tracks cricket and sports very closely. Explain, Nikhil, the significance in the pantheon of greats. Why is it, in your view, that Shane Warne had such a special position in that pavilion?
Rahul, many factors that went into making Shane Warne the legend that he is. You mentioned saying arguably the greatest leg spinner. Many might say arguably the greatest cricketer probably to have played the sport. I know opinions will be divided. Even if you went and spoke to Australian, I've had the pleasure of covering cricket in Australia. Yes, everyone talks about the great Don Bradman, but there is also a school of thought that picks Shane Warne as probably the greatest Australian cricketer to be there, because two of them had completely different roles. You know, Don Bradman for his outstanding average, the number of runs that he scored. You know, Ricky Ponting for the amount of runs that he got. But when it comes to bowling, nobody really matched Shane Warne, not just in Australia, but globally. The only man who picked up more wickets than Shane Warne was Muthaiya Muralidharan. But then there were a lot of critiques in cricket that spoke about, you know, how Shane Warne was, in the true sense, the real spinner who deserved the crown of being the best, because he had a clean action. He bowled leg spin bowling the traditional way, just as you expected, and the number of deliveries that he had up his sleeve. We'll always remember. Now, there have been so many bowlers that have played cricket, but the ball of the century remains to only one man, and that is Shane Warne. We'll never forget that delivery that he bowled to Mike Gatting to dismiss him, that ball pitching way outside the leg stump, going behind his legs to catch hold of his stumps. That still remains the ball of the century. That, remember, was his first ball in the Ashes series. The other bit of Shane Warne's legend is being built obviously because of his overseas performances versus England, the traditional rival, versus Australia, and that's where he came out on his best. There were so many batsmen. Rahul Kanwal, for one, comes to my mind, who was treated as Shane Warne's bunny. Shane Warne, at will, could get his wicket whenever he wanted, and this was a batsman that dominated most other bowlers. So that's the kind of impact that he had on cricket. And let's not forget, he also made, and that's, I think, his real contribution, he made spin bowling cool in international cricket. When the batsmen hogged all the limelight, when the fast bowlers were the real superstars, Shane Warne became that superstar, the poster boy, even though he was a spinner, which wasn't considered as glamorous. So that's what his personality was, the outspoken attitude that he had. As I said earlier as well, he would call a spade a spade. He had so much faith in his ability that on occasions he's gone on to play a cricket game with a microphone and a earpiece in his ear, and then tell exactly what he's going to do. Imagine the kind of control he had over his calf. Would say that, okay, this is the flipper that I'm going to bowl, and the batsman is going to play me like that. The next ball that I'm going to bowl will be a wrong one, and that is exactly what the batsman will do. The next ball that I bowl, the batsman is going to expect another wrong one, but I'm going to bowl a traditional leg break. He would do that, and he would say, I will get him out in the slip. That's exactly how the things would play out. Can you? I mean, he would exactly tell you what his plan was and how he would trap a batsman. This against some of the best batsmen in the world. So that's when I talk about the mastery that he had over bowling. About his personality, never got along with his captain in Steve Waugh, never saw eye to eye. Rahul, I remember I did an interview with him, and I said, if you had an opportunity, two folks that he never really got along with were John Buchanan, his coach, and his captain in Steve Waugh. And I asked him that if you had an opportunity, or if I had to force you to have lunch with either neither one of them. Who's it going to be? And I remember him refusing to answer. He said neither. I could never sit with them and have a meal. Yet he played under Steve Waugh's captaincy. He played when John Buchanan was the coach and performed to the best of his ability. That's the kind of player he was. I think if I had to look, I'm struggling to find those stats because I don't have them offhand in terms of, man of the matches and man of the series award during the generation or the time that he was playing. I doubt there'll be any other player that could come close to Shane Warne. So if you had Shane Warne in the team, he's not just going to pick up a wicket or two. He's going to win you a match. He's going to win you a series. And that's
data
what Shane
that you're
Warne
giving. 17 man of the match awards. This is the third highest number of man of the matches anybody's won. Most ducks in a career, he had 34. That's the fifth highest. Most 10 wickets in a match in a career, 10 times over. That's the second highest in the world. Most runs conceded in a career, he's conceded 17,995 runs. That's the third highest. Fastest to 700 wickets in 144 matches. He's the second highest when it comes to that. Most wickets in a calendar year. 96 wickets in one calendar year. That's the legend of Shane Warne. And speaking of legends, Rajdeep Sardesai joins me. What makes Shane Warne so special, in your view?
The most riveting cricketer of the 21st century. I think, Rahul, sport is not just what you achieve, all the numbers that you've given, but it also means what you are able to achieve outside the boundary. And the impact that Shane Warne had, I think Virender Sehwag put it well. He made spin bowling cool. The way he approached the sport was of a Hollywood superstar. There was that element of whenever he was the great entertainer.
He had Hollywood girlfriends.
He had Liz Hurley, many others. But you see, that part of his life made the front pages in a way because of, or page 3, because of all that he did. But allied to that was the manner in which he lifted the craft of leg spin bowling, which most experts will tell you is the most difficult craft in this game, to bowl leg spin, and made it look as if he was, this great artist, Mozart of leg spin bowling out there.
And he could spin the ball in a glass top.
He could spin the ball, but more than that, the variety that he had, the manner in which he sort of, there was a flamboyance to Shane Warne. And I think the best example, you gave all these statistics for Australia. First year, 2008. It was Shane Warne captaining Rajasthan Royals who won the IPL, and he lifted the team to another level. So he had
he never had the opportunity to captain Australia in the same way.
Huge regret, but that was partly because I guess Shane Warne always was never far away from controversy. If you remember,
a bit of a bad boy.
He missed a World Cup in 2003 over allegations of element of substance abuse. But I think it was the aura. When Shane Warne walked on the field, everybody watched what Shane Warne was doing. The blonde hair, the sort of his swagger on the field, the manner he ran up to bowl, everything about Shane Warne had the look of this Hollywood entertainer. So he was not just a cricketer. It was just the most riveting experience to watch him bamboozle a batsman. I remember a great example, Basit Ali, a Pakistan batsman, last ball of the day. Shane Warne waited for 90 seconds to keep Basit Ali waiting and push the field in different directions, bowls a ball outside the leg stump. Basit Ali leaves the ball, it goes round his legs and bowls him. Because he had psychologically destroyed Basit Ali by creating this aura, I'm going to bowl this mystery ball. Sometimes he didn't have the mystery ball, but before the tournament or the match started, he'd say, I've got a new mystery ball. The batsman Daryl Cullinan of South Africa has admitted that I went into the ground feeling intimidated. Here was a spin bowler who could intimidate you.
Leaving that ball, coming in from halfway across the pitch.
Absolutely, the greatest ball of the century. And Shane Warne once told me in an interview that we had that if DRS was there, he'd have probably got even more wickets because his straighter one would have hit you on the pad and you'd be LBW. He was part of a great Australian side. Now, in a great Australian side, if you asked who stood out, it was Shane Warne, because I think he changed the game. Spin bowling was generally going out of fashion across the world.
How would he have done in IPL T20?
He won the IPL 2008.
At the beginning.
Right at the beginning. I think his big problem, the one frontier he didn't conquer was India. Shane Warne...
Indians weren't scared of him. Even Navjot Singh Sidhu would whack him for sixes.
Sidhu played him as well as anyone did. Tendulkar destroyed him, but that was a bit because his shoulder in 1998, he went through a shoulder operation. He was never quite the same bowler, yet came back in 2005 to bamboozle the English. Shane Warne was at his best when he played the English.
They didn't know what he was doing.
The English went into the field with Shane Warne on the other end, already intimidated. You know, he could unnerve the best of the best. So, you know, if you had to choose your 5 greatest cricketers of the 20th century, Shane Warne would be the one spinner that you would almost certainly pick.
Krishnachari Shrikant joins us, former Indian opening batsman. Mr. Shrikant, welcome. Your memories of the legend of Shane Warne? I lost him. So we'll get Krish Shrikant back in just a moment. But spend a moment, Rajdeep, on the bond with Sachin Tendulkar. He never dominated Tendulkar in the way that he would like to. And in fact, against the Indian team, even though they were legends playing at the same time, it was always the Indian batsman, even Sehwag, who never been scared of Shane Warne like the Englishman was.
No, sure. I mean, as I said, I think the fact that post-98, the shoulder injury meant that when he came to India on those tours, he was never as fit as he should have been. But you just had a picture of Shane Warne, Sachin Tendulkar, and the great Don Bradman. And this is my thesis. From 1900 to 1950, if you ask, that's the picture. If you ask for a cricketer who defined the game, it would be Don Bradman. If you looked for a cricketer between 1950 and 1980, it would be Sir Viv Richards, in my view, and Garfield Sobers. Sobers from 50 to 70, and then Viv Richards. If you look for cricketers between our age, or your age, Rahul, post-90, post-liberalization. These are both the poster boys, I believe, of post-liberalization, when you had television coming into your home every day. You know, the 1970s, very interesting. Or saddening, poignant. This morning, Rodney Marsh, who was part of the great Australian team of the 70s, died. Radio commentary. So I, as a young kid, you know, had these images of Rodney Marsh, but never really saw him in flesh. He never came to India. Marsh never played a test in India, great of Australian cricket. Shane Warne came to India, played the IPL, and I think the IPL made him larger than life, because picking a team like Rajasthan Royal in that first year...
It's a fairy tale.
That's a fairy tale story. So I think that made his aura even more for Indian viewers, much more than Test cricket. But I think what has happened in the last 25, 30 years with Tendulkar and Warne, they brought more bums on the seat than any other cricket. These are the two cricketers. You would travel 1,000 kilometers to watch Sachin Tendulkar bat and Shane Warne bowl.
One of his last tweets, in fact, is on Ukraine. The entire world is with the people of Ukraine as they suffer an unprovoked and unjustified attack by Russian military forces. The pictures are horrific, and I can't believe more is not being done to stop this. Sending lots of love to my Ukrainian mate JK Sheva7 and his family. And the fact that he had a constant fight with weight, bulge, beer, smoking, and he was always, you know, even while he was playing for the Australian team, one of the reasons he never became captain was because of the fact that they just couldn't trust him to show up and do the right thing.
You know, they said he was the beach boy from Victoria who sort of made it big. He was sort of, you know, liked to live life king size. And sports, in a way, was... you know, a passion. He was fascinated by the art of leg spin bowling, but at the heart was that Aussie from the, you know, from the backyards of Melbourne, who loved a drink, loved a good time, enjoyed life, lived life king size, was very good at poker, would go to Vegas and play poker, win poker matches. You know, I think all of that, because the present, you know, it's like what Virat Kohli's done, right? Larger than life, with his tattoos, his flamboyant persona.
But Virat's never been in these kind of controversies.
Virat has not the controversies, Rahul, but just the way he expresses himself, that animated nature. You know, Shane Warne
got lights fans up, for sure.
When Shane Warne got you out, he reminded you that you got you out. It wasn't silent. You know, Anil Kumble was the silent assassin. Shane Warne was someone who had that, you know, was the entertainer who would let you know that he got you out. And that, I think, all of that built, you know, the Aussies were looking for a hero in the 1990s. And they found one in Shane Warne like we found in Tendulkar. So what Tendulkar meant for our post-liberalization generation, I think Warne meant for the 1990s, the millennial generation that was just entering the 21st century.
There's an interesting post that Shane Warne put out. This is about his official video biography where he says, I drank a bit, I smoked a bit, and I bowled leg spin. So I drank a bit, I smoked a bit, and that's really how nonchalant he was. Very much at ease with his legendary status and not hiding any of the Watson moles he had.
And also, Rahul, significantly, it's what, almost 15, 16 years since he retired? Of course, he played the IPL, but retired from Australian Test cricket in, I think, 2006. But he's still so well known because even after the game, both as commentator, as a player, he sort of kept people enthralled. You were riveted by the experience of watching Shane Warne do whatever he did in life. And therefore, that's the shock today. That how is it that this 52-year-old man, full of life, larger than life, suddenly succumbs?
And Nikhil Naz, all his dalliances outside of the field, his partnership with Liz Hurley, and the fact that you've got this cricketer dating one of the most glamorous women in the world.
Well, I tell you what, Rahul, I was just going through a few WhatsApp messages that I exchanged with Shane Warne, and the last time I did that was during the India Today conclave because I was coordinating with him to be there at the time to be talking, and I'm just going through all those messages as candid as ever, even in his exchanges with me over text. You speak about Liz Hurley. I remember covering that series, and that was the India series in 2011, yet he was commentating, and Liz Hurley was there, and I happened to speak about him, and he said, you know what, having a Hollywood star as your girlfriend, the other advantage of having her as your girlfriend is that it keeps you fit, keeps you on your toes, and I need to keep looking good. So that's the kind of personality he would have. You were talking about his off-field persona. I remember this famous story that I heard in England. He was playing for Hampshire, very famously, everyone knows. And when he went to Middlesex to play a game, and you know how the members at the Lord's cricket ground are, they have very strict rules and certain protocols. And you know that Warne was a smoker. He would often smoke while coming out of the dressing room. So the members said that if he'll be coming out smoking of the dressing room, we don't want to have any of Shane Warne being here. Hampshire may not even play him. And what he did, so there should be no smoking. He would actually come out while fielding, come to the boundary line and smoke. And what Shane Warne did, he walked around after lunch one day, and these are what, the stories I've heard from folks that were at the ground, smoked in front of those members' pavilion and then stubbed his cigarette out right in front of them before entering the field. So he was that sort of a rebel. But that's what people loved him for. And I think credit must also go to the Australian team management at the time. They let him be. They let the creativity of Shane Warne be instead of trying to put him under certain rules and regulations. The kind of culture that we sometimes see in India that if you're a bad boy, then you can't be a good cricketer. So good on Australian cricketer to acknowledge the fact that yes, he had a colourful life off the cricket field, but to get the best out of Shane Warne, you had to let him enjoy that colourful life. We all remember his divorce at the time, that there were a lot of MTV VJs that came out and spoke about the affairs that they'd had with Shane Warne, not in the numbers that we saw with the Tiger Woods case, but plenty of those VJs had come out and said they'd had affair with Shane Warne, and he was again nonchalant about that. He's pretty open about it and accepted it. There was no hiding there. So he mentioned that yes, that's the kind of personality that I am, but you also knew what you're going to get with Shane Warne when he's got that ball in his hand.
Well, you'd get magic. We got Lalchand Rajput, Rajdeep, joining us. Mr. Rajput, your thoughts on this legend, and how do you look back at his glorious life and career?
I think it's a very, very sad day for world cricket, I would say. One of the legends of the game who really dominated Australian cricket when they were at the peak, and he was instrumental in winning a lot of series, I would say. One guy who could really dance the batsman with his bowling, and he was the one who really, tormented a lot of batsmen, especially the Englishmen, the South Africans, you name it, I think he was a legend by himself, and it's a very, very sad day that, at a young age of 52, he is no more. My condolences to his family, and I hope his soul rests in peace, because it's a great, great loss to the cricketing world.
Thank you for joining us. I want to show our viewers what another legend around the same generation, Muthaiya Muralidharan, told me just a short while ago.
It's a very shocking news for us, no words to say. And he's a good friend, and also he's a legendary cricketer because he has done for spin bowling more than anyone, and he will be remembered as in the history of. So it is shocking. I don't know what to say, because it's not an age to die, 52, and he was fit whenever I saw him and everything. So it was sad for all cricket fans and also the cricket lovers, and he's no more. So that will be a big loss for cricketing fraternity. See, I saw him in 1992, first time ever winning a second test match. He won a match for Australia in a difficult time. So then I thought he's going to be something different bowler, and he has been what we've ever seen. So it's very difficult to say things now because I'm also don't know, words are lost and never know what will happen and everything, and it's a shocking news for the world. So.
You know, Rajdeep's mate from Mumbai, Shishir Hatangdi, joins us now. Shishir, your memories of the legend of Shane Warne?
One of cricket's greatest characters in this generation, effervescent as ever, on and off the field. Just unbelievable to hear this news because we've seen him transform into, you know, a great bowler from his first test match where Ravi Shastri got a double 100 against him, and he sort of metamorphoses himself into a great bowler over the years. You know, just with his guile and craft and his attitude on the field, something we haven't seen in this generation, a class leg spinner in Shane Warne. And let's not forget, he is one of the greatest captains not to have led Australia, because we saw the glimpse of his leadership qualities when Rajasthan Royals first won the IPL in the inaugural year, where he took on a bunch of unknown names and delivered for his franchise, and probably, you know, shocked the IPL world in those days.
Looked at purely from a spin perspective, Shishir, what is it about the art and craft of Shane Warne that made him so special? We've spoken about his personality, what he did on and off the field, but just about the way he held the ball, just about the way the ball came out of his hand, what it did off the pitch. What is it that you think made Shane Warne so special and so different from all other spinners?
I think it was hours and hours of hard work. It was also his ability to know his craft with those hours put into his leg spin craft. He knew how to deliver. You know, he cultivated a zooter, as they call it, a flipper, as they call it, a wrong one, as they call it, and the traditional leg break. So he was, in a sense, a great judge of the wind direction, because he was able to control his spin and use the flat ball or the flipper when the wind assisted him. So a cricketing brain behind a lot of hard work and developing his guile as a leg spinner, something we hadn't seen in the last after Subhash Gupta. And I didn't see Subhash Gupta, so I've never seen something like Shane Warne.
Rajdeep, your thoughts on this?
Lifetime.
Just the craft of Shane Warne, what made him different from all other spinners?
Because, as I said, the art of leg spin bowling is arguably the toughest art in the sport, because
Why is it tougher than off spin?
Because you see, with off spin, you're a finger spinner. You're using your finger. Here, you're using your wrists. So therefore, your ability to grip the ball and spin it, and accuracy. That's what separated Shane Warne from the others, the men from the boys. You've had lots of spinners. You'll have Anil Kumble, who was much flatter, possibly much more accurate, equally deadly in his own way.
But much less spin.
But he didn't have the spin and the flight and the accuracy, you see.
And the variations.
You know, my late father, who was a connoisseur of spin bowling, played for India, told me that he had seen as a young boy an Indian Subhash Gupta, who Gary Sober said was the best bowler, leg spinner he'd seen. And Subhash Gupta also had that ability to fly, turn and land it. Then my father, 20 years later, sees Warne and says, I've finally seen someone better than Gupta. And that is, I think, a lot of people of that generation who saw Subhash Gupta believe that Shane Warne took this art to another level. The ability to turn the ball, the ability to flight it and then land it on the spot.
With accuracy.
With accuracy, the batsman not knowing which way it's turning is what made Shane Warne different. He didn't have a great googly, which many leg spinners have. He had a great flipper, which is a ball that speeds off the turf. So you're going for a thing and it hits you straight on the pad before you know it. So he got a lot of LBWs as a result, because he had that flipper and he could turn before his shoulder injury, I don't think anyone has turned the ball more.
Why did he turn it more than the others?
I think because, you see, I think Shane Warne would tell you that, but the wrist is, I think he was able to grip the ball and you are able to give the right rotation. It's the most difficult thing, Rahul, you're turning the ball and ensuring it lands time after time on that spot, because you don't have the same control with the wrist that you have with your finger. This is much more conventional. This is unusual. And in his first test match, he was hammered by the Indians in Sydney because he was this fat young man who'd suddenly come and didn't have the control. Within 1 year of that, yes, within 91, from 91 to 92, in the space of a year, he had gone to the next level. From 92 to 93. So I think that's what sets it apart. And you just, I don't know whether we have that ball of the century.
Can we go to Charu Sharma? No, it is there. That ball plays. The ball that you see where Mike Gatting is standing, it turns in. It looks like a wide is going way out. You think the keeper's going to struggle. There it is.
No, I'm still waiting for it. That's, that is one of the many balls. He bowled this various times, but...
It plays once, I think it plays. Charu Sharma joins us. Charu, you've done a lot of commentary. Looking at Shane Warne, what according to you makes him so special?
His aggression and his innovation. Hello, Rahul and Rajdeep. He took the art of leg spinning by the scruff of its neck and he made it something different. He made it cool. He made it aggressive. And he was, in that sense, a world leader. I mean, it wasn't that there was no leg spin before him. Of course, plenty of legendary leg spinners. But Shane Warne gave it that extra rip because it's a very strong wrist forearm and his fingers as well. And I mean, I heard just a bit of what was being said earlier. Yes, it's a very difficult art coming from the back of the hand, really. Of course, some are bowled through largely the fingers, but even leg spin. And apart from all of that, I would like to say that he was somebody well beyond the game, well beyond being just a leg spinner. Great tactician. Was a very generous man as well, willing to share his knowledge and skill with a lot of youngsters who were coming through. Was happy to be a democratic cricketer, as it were, not sort of in camps or not among the seniors only. So I can go on, but I mean, I've got to say I'm still numb with this news. I mean, at 52, that's just ridiculous. Without any warning, he wasn't, to the best of my knowledge, unwell. These things, these are the ways of life and death.
Thanks, Charu, for joining us. Appreciate your thoughts. We're looking at these images of an Australian team which at that time had one legend after another. Glenn McGrath, Steve Waugh, Mark Waugh, Rajdeep. So many different legends. Adam Gilchrist, that really arguably would be one of the greatest teams of all time, comparable only to the West Indies team of the 70s and the 80s.
Absolutely, Rahul, spot on.
Stacked with legends.
Yeah, if you had to choose a team to play the two greatest teams, it would be, I think, the Australians at the turn of the century.
Who would have won in that match?
Tough to say. What the West Indies didn't have, which the Australians had, is Shane Warne. So if it was played in India, I'd give it to the Australians. If it was played in Australia, I'd think the West Indies with their 4 fast bowlers with no bouncer rule. If there was no bouncer rule, I think they'd have the edge. They had fantastic batsmen, the likes of Viv Richards, but they didn't have Shane Warne. So if it was a 5th-day pitch, for example, and the West Indians struggled against leg spin, so Shane Warne would have been the one differentiator. Look, it is, Rahul, you will produce all the statistics you want. I don't think statistics captures Shane Warne. Gideon Haigh, probably the best cricket writer that there is, the Australian, wrote a book on Shane Warne, and he said he was an irresistible force off and on the field. The closest in that sense who comes to him was Viv Richards. When Viv Richards...
The swagger, the chewing gum.
That's right.
He comes in, he's scaring bowlers already, even before he started batting.
When you had Viv Richards on the field, you couldn't take your eyes off him. When you had Shane Warne bowling, you just couldn't take your eyes off the cricket field. So I think that is what set these, they're all legends, Tendulkar. But I think Shane Warne was not just a legend, he was this larger-than-life rock star. When you're a rock star who's, also can bowl leg spin, it just takes you to another level. And I do think for a lot of young Indians, again, I make the point, satellite TV, we got to see the magic of Shane Warne on a TV screen near us. We didn't get to see Lily and all the other greats of Australia. by seeing him so often.
My happiest memory is Sachin Tendulkar dancing down the track and hitting him out of the park.
You know,
That's
Sachin,
the memory Indians like. I'm a very transactional Indian sports fan.
and your friend Sidhu, you know, your friend Sidhu was
Sidhu,
probably
you just
more
sit
effective
with
with
him.
Shane Warne than he was with
Sidhu
politics.
loved him. And
That's
you know,
right.
so many matches, Shane Warne's just come on. You think Sidhu's been very quiet all the while before Shane Warne comes in. He comes down, dancing down the track, picks him up, whacks him out of the park, and that's what Sidhu liked to do as well, where he'd been silent all through the innings for the rest of the innings.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think, as I said, that's the one gap in Shane Warne's CV, that he never really beat an Indian team in India. But there's so much else that he can claim.
We were speaking, Rajdeep, about what makes Shane Warne so special, as his personality, his statistics, all of that everyone knows, but just in terms of his craft. And the one man who can shed light on this is Indian spin legend Harbhajan Singh, who joins us now. Baji Paji, welcome. We're seeing you at a time where the world is shocked by the news of Shane Warne's sudden heart attack. First, tell us your fondest memories of this genius, and then I want to get talking to you about just his craft and what made him so special.
Well, Rahul, first of all, it's a very, very sad news. I can't just believe what has happened. And when I heard the news, I was like totally shattered. And I'm still like, hoping this is a fake news. I can't believe he's no more. A guy who's a champion bowler, full of life, as a person, when you meet him, he's a charmer. I mean, a lot to learn from. I can't just believe that he's no more. It's a very, very sad moment for all of us, who played the game with him, and he was one of my heroes. I used to have his posters in my room while I was growing up, and someone who, made so many records, but who won a lot of hearts, and I'm one of those. He was my hero.
Explain, why was he your hero? In terms of his craft, Rajdeep and I were just chatting about what made him have the ability to spin the ball more than others, spin the ball on surfaces where others weren't finding spin, bite and bounce. So what is it about just the craft of Shane Warne that made him one step ahead of everyone else?
See, Shane Warne was an entertainer. He was a magician with the ball. He was different than all the other spinners, where he could spin the ball on any surface, whether you put glass kind of a pitch, he would still be able to spin the ball. And he was so sharp, he would set the field according to what he wants you to do, while you're batting against him. And he will make you think in a different way. He was unbelievable. I mean, I can't really describe how good he was, as a cricketer, as a mentor, as a guy to be around. He was a legend. What a player! What a top man he was.
What's your fondest memory, Baji? What do you remember most about Shane Warne?
See, I enjoyed watching him bowl every time he bowled, and my fondest memory was when I took those 32 wickets against that mighty Australia team. That the first time I got to actually see him, very close to me, and for me, that was, enough, playing with my childhood hero and bowling to him and getting him out. And yeah, that's all was very, very close to me. And I spoke to him while the game was on. I was looking at him while I was bowling, and he was on the non-striker end. And he asked me, "What are you looking at?" And I just, got a little scared, and I just went up to him. I told him that I'm admiring you. And I'm one of your biggest fan who are playing with you, and I'm very lucky that I got this opportunity, that I'm playing the game, same game as you are part of it. So he was, from that time onwards, he was very touched with my honesty, and yeah, from that time onwards, after that series, whenever we met like, that he knows me from many years, and he always treated me like, someone who always want to learn and listen to him. So he treated me very nicely. And
what did he teach you?
Was he part of your hat trick? Was he part of your hat trick at Kolkata or not?
Yes, he was. He was the third victim. He was the third guy who got out to me. Yeah. And I just can't believe he's no more. He was magician with the ball. The way comes across. All you hear is when you're playing in Australia. Let me tell you that all you hear is 10 people on another side and only one Shane Warne, and people just sing songs about him. There's only one noise come from the crowd is Warnie, Warnie. That is unbelievable moment. I can't really forget those voices. After tea break, the only noise you will hear in the crowd was Shane Warne. Unbelievable. He was so loved.
You were a fantastic off spinner, Baji, yourself. But would you still say that bowling leg spin and then being so accurate is even more difficult than bowling off spin?
See, every bowler, whatever way he bowls, whether off spin, doosra, leg spin, googly, everything is an art. But he was an artist.
Yeah.
He was probably the best in the business. I would not say that leg spin is more difficult or off spin is lesser. But yes, whatever he did, he inspired many of us, to take up this game and to be like him. And it's just so sad that he's no more. And if you see his, stats, the way he bowled, the way he set his field, and the way he played with the batsman's mind, he was unbelievable. He was way, way, way far ahead of many of us. And I was not even close by. So let's not just talk about me, but even the other greatest spinners, they'll always, rate him higher than them. If you talk to any of the other great spinners who played the game with him.
Baji, you learned a lot from Shane Warne. Tell us a bit about what's the kind of learning a young Harbhajan Singh could pick up from the legend of Shane Warne.
Well, he was always there on your face, at the opposition. When you're facing him, he always wanted to get you out. He was not a friend, while you're facing him in the ground. But, what I learned from him was never give up. He was continues to do something or the other to make sure as a batsman you do something different than what you're doing comfortably. So that was Shane Warne. He will make you think every ball that what is coming towards you. So he will not say that, okay, this game is over till the time, that game was over actually. So Shane Warne, he'll fight till the end, and that's what we learned from him.
And I'll say this, Baji just now said, you learned from Warne. Actually, it was a great spin generation. When you look at the 21st century,
Sure, yeah.
You had Harbhajan and Kumble. Between them, more than 1,000 wickets in Test cricket. You've got Shane Warne, 700 plus Test wickets. You've got Muralidharan, 800 plus Test wickets. Add all of them, that's a lot of wickets. So I think, Shane Warne, in a way, along with Muralidharan, starts this spin revolution.
But would he have survived, Baji, in the IPL generation? For example, one of the reasons is that you're playing a longer format, so the guile comes into play. Now, if you see, for example, what Ravindra Jadeja is bowling, it's faster. You're trying to contain the batsman, not so much get him out.
Well, Shane Warne was the champion. He would have not survived, but ruled in the IPL. Let me tell you, he was the king of spin, a real king of spin. He would have made a lot of people dance on his deliveries.
Because he sets it up. I'll tell you why I asked this, because Shane Warne set it up. He did a few things, he got into your mind. I'm only wondering in the IPL if there's enough time to be able to do that.
But look at, but 1 minute, Rahul. Look at all the players. Look at some of the players who every team wants a match-winning spinner today in their IPL side. Why is Rashid Khan so coveted? Because you need someone who's going to change the pace of the game. IPL cannot be unique. If I was a batsman and I was only an ordinary club batsman, I would rather play, and I realized this when I played the great Abdul Qadir in 1980s. It is far more difficult, I'm saying, for an average player or a mediocre player like me to play a quality spinner than play a quality fast bowler. Fast bowler, if you have courage, you can survive. Or even, laga diya kahin. But a spinner, a Baji, a Kumble, a Warne, these are artists. Harbhajan used the right word. They're artists.
Baji wants to jump in and explain why Shane Warne would have succeeded in the IPL, Baji.
Well, he, as I said, he would have ruled, not survived. He would have taught a lot of people how to bowl actually in this format too. And not to forget, when he led Rajasthan Royal in the first edition, to victory, it was only his brain with limited sort of limited sort of players. he went on to win the cup for them. And, I can tell you that he was a great cricketing brain, which Australia, could have him should have had him with his, he was a captain material for Australia, that all I can say but Australia didn't use that, but he applied that in his bowling and he took so many wickets, and he always used to put batsmen under pressure. And I'll tell you a story, when you're talking about Shane Warne surviving in the IPL, he was the mastermind. Dhoni came in, and Dhoni those days was like the strongest hitter of the ball. And Dhoni came in, he had a silly point and a slip. First ball beaten, second ball goes in slip. Dhoni out, 0. So that was the kind of a man, he was. He would think, 10 times ahead of you than what a batsman is thinking. So that was Shane Warne. He was unbelievable.
In fact, to add the IPL point, if you look at 13 years of the IPL, I still think the most remarkable victory was the first year Rajasthan Royals.
Absolutely.
When you look at the quality of the team at that time, no one gave them a hope in hell. Shane Warne transformed them, and none of us really knew what the IPL was all about. He even went back to Hampshire and was a tremendous success in all formats in county cricket as well as their limited overs cricket. And those are on English wickets, English wickets, you wouldn't expect a leg spinner to do the kind of stuff that Shane Warne did, but every season that he went, both in the Ashes, in his early part of the career, including the ball of the century, first Ashes ball, and later, this is a magician. This is a guy who could spin a cricket ball on desert sand. Give him sand, he would have spun a cricket ball. Give him a pata wicket, a flat wicket, he would have spun a cricket ball. There are...
Yeah, Rajdip, I've seen English batters that didn't wanted to face him. Even in the county, I was playing for Surrey. And he was playing for Hampshire. Though we won that game, I took more wickets than him in that game, but he was unbelievable. I could see the fear in our dressing room. People didn't want to face Shane Warne. He was a terror there. People were like getting out in the dressing room itself that, oh wow, are we facing Shane Warne? How are we going to play? How are we going to score runs? But, that was Shane Warne's presence in the ground. And let me tell you, even, when you play a test match in Sydney or Melbourne or anywhere in Australia, he was a superstar. People used to come to see him, how he bowled, how he just takes his run up, and how he just threw up the ball while just walking on the run up. मतलब वो एक सुपरस्टार था यार. मतलब सिनेमा में क्या होता है मुझे पता नहीं, बट
आपने एक बड़ा अच्छा वर्ड यूज किया, performer. He was a performer, and Gideon Haig in his biography writes that he was the person who could make the unscripted look scripted. So 700th wicket, everybody looking, Melbourne cricket ground, full house, Boxing Day test match. You knew that Shane Warne was going to get his 700th wicket. It was made for him. He loved that big theatre. As Bajji was saying, everyone shouting, Warnie, Warnie. This is a spin bowler. Normally you shout for a fast bowler. But with Warne, the crowd was shouting for a spin bowler, Warnie, Warnie. It was a folk hero. He was the ultimate Australian folk hero.
Rajdeep, you need to go get ready for your show.
I need to get ready. But as I said, I think the reason why Rahul, we had to break from Ukraine to do this because it's such a shock.
Oh, it is.
I think just a 52-year-old dying too early, terrific commentator. Look at his commentary in this Ashes series, very perceptive in his commentary. Terrific commentator also.
Legend, performer, Harbhajan Singh, those words just came straight from the heart for taking out time at such short notice to join us. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. And to see one legend celebrate another, that's fantastic. Far and away, one of the greatest cricketers to have played this sport, Shane Warne. We respect you, we'll remember you, and for all the memories that you've left us with. Thank you so much. We're slipping into a break. We'll have more for you on the other side with News Today.